on television these days is reality TV. These reality TV type shows encourage the viewer to participate in the lives of real characters. And some of the popular ones are Real Housewives of New York, Real Housewives of New Jersey, Atlanta, and so on. And these shows, friend, are the ultimate televoyeurism. You get to comfortably sit in the front seat of the lives of these godless people as they hop from bedroom to bedroom. Even though I personally do not own a television, I haven't had a TV in my home for 10 long years or more. I got rid of that idiot box a long time ago, but I still know through research of what's going on. Friend, Jesus said in the Bible, "You've heard that it was said of them of old, Thou shalt not commit adultery. But I say unto you, that whosoever looketh on a woman to lust after her hath already committed adultery with her in his heart." Matthew 5:27-28. Now, please take note that the mind is capable of creating such realistic mental pictures that people actually become involved in the imaginary scenes. The participation is so real that Jesus said that we're held accountable for what we permit our minds to dwell upon, just as though we were going through the physical act itself. Okay, now let's get back to that word vicarious. Since the brain is the decision center for the body, every act performed must be first conceived in the mind before it can be translated into action. The brain, through the vast nerve communication system, sends the message for hands, feet, and other physical organs to go into action. Once our mind is presented with a strong stimulus, the incredible intimate relationship of mind and body begins to produce physical reactions. With the speed of electricity, the brain sends off a message alerting the entire body to the contemplated action. Now the mind and body unite in bringing pressure for the person to respond to all that stimuli. Now friend, here's a mind-blowing scenario that ought to stop you in your tracks. Now, let's say you're watching a CSI television episode. In graphic slow motion, they show you the bad guy lifting his gun and deliberately shooting his victim, thereby committing cold-blooded murder. The new cinematic device that is quite common in movie and TV these days in their directing is to show the violent action from various angles. So you end up viewing that cold-blooded action of murder from at least 3 different perspectives. Okay, now follow me here, please. You've just witnessed murder, and the producers of that drama has so artfully created the scene with light and shadows and music that it appears quite real. Consciously, you know that it's just a TV show, right? However, scientifically, it has been proven to affect your mind to such an extent that you experience a rush of adrenaline. In this case, the sin exists only in the imagination, but such is the power of thought that in God's sight, the vicarious mental performance of the sin is counted as serious as a physical indulgence itself. Now, are you beginning to catch a glimpse of the terrifying secret plan that the devil has laid out in broad daylight? Satan is getting many people to commit murder through vicarious experiences. It's a clever, diabolical plan. Now, don't forget, Jesus said this. Jesus says, "You have heard that it was said by them of old time, Thou shalt not commit adultery. But I say unto you that whosoever looketh on a woman to lust after her hath already committed adultery with her in his heart." Matthew 5:27-28. Nowhere do we see a more vivid demonstration of vicarious participation than with television and movies, and I might add video games also. Now, let me ask you a quick question. Which of the 10 commandments can we break by vicariously becoming involved with game shows on TV? I'm talking about game shows like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire or Deal or No Deal. Yep, you're right. It's the 10th commandment. It says, thou shalt not covet. You become unwillingly caught up in a world of excitement of winning large sums of money. You may or may not consciously crave the money, but your subconscious can't tell the difference. Why? Because your eyes are sending mesmerizing images of covetousness to the brain. They say that the eyes are the windows of the soul. Even though you may be mature enough to know that a bedroom scene in that romantic movie is just only a fabricated situation, yet you become as emotionally involved in the storyline as if you were actually living out the experience. Your heart pounds with desire, your eyes widen, and in some cases, other areas of the body react. So despite your better judgment, you're mentally projected into the scene of that movie. Jesus said that this kind of participation is just as wrong as the actual physical involvement. So whether fighting and shooting his way out of a desperate situation, suffering the trauma of an incurable disease, or viewing with guilty voyeurism a provocative bedroom scene, you're caught up in the plot by proxy in the adventures of what's going on the screen. Hollywood is expert at making pretend situations so real that we get caught up in the action. Producers and directors and musicians and actors are in the business of creating as realistic a scene as possible. Now friend, try to imagine the fantastic strategy Satan is using in television and movies. It staggers the mind to even think about it. Here is a situation in which the devil inspires one act of simulated sin. For example, an artificial make-believe portrayal of adultery. But through his manipulations of emotions, Satan can turn that one acted out sin into 1,000,000 real sins of adultery, because 1,000,000 individuals watching the show will project themselves into the picture. And in their subconscious minds, it is not make-believe. It is so real that even their bodies react. The emotions of lust and fear so fully obsess you, the viewer, that even though you can't take part physically in the sin, your mind and will are affected in exactly the same way as if you were actually taking part. And more serious still, God holds you just as guilty as if you had done it personally. Now think about this. What a clever, diabolical way to turn people into thieves, murderers, and adulterers. See, Satan only has to work with the script writers and actors to produce the most appealing, realistic, and emotional plots. From that point, the natural laws of the mind take over, and the viewer becomes emotional captive of whatever they allow themselves to look at. One day, you may be living out the experience of shoplifting, the next day of murder, and later of fornication or adultery. Now to the actors on the screen, it's just pretense. But to the viewer, it's a couple of hours for an opportunity to do all the exciting things that God